Hi, I'm Roger Salle and I'm here today at the Deloitte Innovation Academy, and we're putting together a series of videos on business, innovation, opportunity capture, what these things mean and how you actually implement them. It's no good talking about business if we don't understand what it is, or opportunity or innovation. So this series is to try and help you understand some of these things, and more importantly, how you actually do them within your business. That's the crux of the matter. A good starting point on this conversation is probably to first ask, what is business? I define business as creating wealth through profitable transactions. I mean, business is about profit, and profit's not a dirty word, and that's the way we should think about it. We are trying to create wealth for ourselves and our stakeholders. That's what business is about. Now let's just look at some history. In a recent book, some statistics were cited that quoted that in the 1920s, the life expectancy of a business was some 65 years. By the 1990s, that had fallen to less than 10 years, and today it's probably 5 years or even less. And it's really interesting to have a look at what happens to a business that doesn't innovate. And I'd like to just draw a quick sketch of this. If there's profit, there's time. This is what happens to every business in the world that doesn't innovate or doesn't find the next opportunity. What we need to do as a business is keep moving our offering, our customers, our services, everything we do to an ever better place. That's what innovation opportunity capture is all about. We've got to be doing this to our business so that the revenues keep going up and our businesses keep growing. And it's interesting also to look at some of the companies that have failed to innovate. I remember in the 1980s or thereabouts, there was a company in Australia that used to make matches, like matches. In the 1980s, they made 84 million matches per day. This particular company failed to acknowledge or embrace the invention of the butane lighter. Rather than thinking they were in the business of flame, they thought we're in the match business. Well, guess what? That company today makes no matches. A company that is an extremely good innovator, you could say, would be Apple. There's probably no product that Apple sells today that even existed 5 years ago. And the film industry, the cinema industry, is another one. They almost went broke when television first came to the market, and then they innovated, they changed their offering, and now, rather than having massive real estate just devoted to perhaps 1 or 2 seatings per day, they have a short 1.5 hour film, many small theatres, very comfortable theatres. You go in, you watch a movie, you go out, and within half an hour they've got a complete new audience in. They have a rapid turnover. They have a completely different business model to what they initially did have. Now, it's very interesting to start to think about business in general. I said it's creating wealth through profitable transactions. Well, let's talk about how you can actually build a business. Now, essentially, if we have a look at a profit and loss statement, which of course every company has, we have revenue as a top line, costs here, and revenue minus costs, of course, equals profit. There are only 2 ways to increase the profit of a business. The first is to reduce costs, and that's what process innovation is all about. Looking at the way we do things and trying to find better ways to reduce the costs. Now, the beauty of process innovation is that it's fairly low in risk, and every dollar we save in a process goes straight to the bottom line as $1 in increased profit. So process innovation has got a lot to offer, and the companies that are particularly interested in this type of innovation are more the utilities, such as the electricity companies, the water companies, the gas companies and so on. These are companies that can't really innovate their product. I mean, water is water, electricity is electricity. You can't really change that. So these companies are more focused on the way they do business. The other way to build a business is to build the revenue line. Now, this is where it all counts. There is no way you can build a business by just cutting costs. You can't cost cut your way to prosperity. You have to build the top line. And interestingly, there's only 3 ways to increase revenue, and there's only one that works. The first way is simply to sell more goods. Well, I can sell more goods in a few ways. I can put on more salespeople, I can advertise, I can maybe discount, I can maybe bring in a loyalty program. All of those sorts of things have the effect of perhaps increasing sales, and what they do to the revenue curve is this: a temporary increase in revenue or a hiatus in the decline in revenue whilst your new sales initiatives kick in. The problem with that is that as soon as I start doing any of those things, my competitors can react and do the same thing immediately. It's a bit like cost cutting. My competitors can do the same thing overnight, and all I've done is lowered the base. This is not a good long-term strategy. It might be good in the short term, but not long-term. The second thing I can do is to find new markets for the existing products I've got. Now, that is a strategy that can work, but it can also be quite dangerous. For example, let me just give you this example. Supposing I'm making meat pies, and I decide I want to expand my offering, so I go to a country that doesn't eat meat pies at the moment. Let's say I go to, say, Fiji. Now, meat pies aren't all the go in Fiji, so I go to Fiji and I send my marketing team over there. We start advertising, we spend lots of money on showing people the virtues of pies, and finally, after years of effort, we convert people to start eating meat pies. I've expanded my market, I've found a new market. Is this a good thing? Well, perhaps, but what have I just achieved? I've just, at great risk and great cost, laid a path of gold for my competitors. Other people making meat pies can now follow me in with their offering saying it's better, and they've taken no costs, no risks, and they can move straight into me. So this, again, is not necessarily a great long-term strategy. The single best way to build your business and stay ahead of your competitors is to innovate. And innovation is about continually improving your offering, always taking your customers to a better place. Your competitors are always chasing you in that case. And you've only got to have a look at some of the great companies. I mentioned before Apple. Before anybody else has latched onto some of the fantastic IP in the iPad or the iPhone or these types of products, they've moved on to the next one. And the same with the car companies. Every year the car companies innovate their car a little bit. They come out with some different offering. And as soon as you've embraced that new offering, they change it again. And after 3 years, what does the car company do? They change the shape of their car, essentially moving you up their value curve and getting you into their next model. This is the sort of thing that innovation's about. But innovation has to add value. There is no point just innovating for the sake of innovation. I can give you a classic example of a product that was innovated to excess to the point where it became unusable. And that's the video cassette recorder. Now, for anyone old enough to remember that when the VCR first came in, it was simple to use. By the time it was replaced by the DVD player, it had become so complex, you had to get your children to use it for you. That is an example to me of a product that's been innovated to excess. There is no point adding innovations to products that don't add real and measurable value. And that's the sort of thing we're going to talk about in this video series, together with opportunity capture, and how you can teach your people to become opportunists. Move them from being operators to opportunists. That's the big picture.